talk about his coach, whom I also unfortunately don't remember. I wasn't paying much attention, but then he made a comment that I'll never forget. His basketball team had just pulled off an upset win, and this kid said that his coach would constantly tell the team, sprint to the starting line. Well, that day they certainly did, and they never looked back. The phrase stuck with me, sprint to the starting line. Conventional wisdom says, sprint to the finish line. Whether it's the 100-meter dash or a basketball game, as you get towards the end, you turn on the jets. But this one particular coach emphasized not just playing fast and hard toward the end of a contest or even throughout the entire contest. He wanted his guys to race to the beginning, to be chomping at the bit. You can just picture a runner or a swimmer making a beeline to the starting blocks, just itching to explode onto the track or into the pool. That was the type of mindset this coach instilled in his players. What I also realized that it wasn't just a sports metaphor. If you're looking for a job or trying to get some new tasks started, run to that computer and start looking for what's out there. Embrace the challenge ahead of you. Don't wait for the best time of day or the right opportunity to just appear. Attack that task or chore head on. Momentum is a powerful thing. Once it gets going, it's hard to stop. Imagine having that kind of energy prior to even beginning your endeavor. You will be unstoppable. Sprint to the starting line. Words to live by. Thanks, Coach.
And it's interesting. So this morning I put something out on Facebook that despite win or lose, I'm still going to be a Cleveland Indians fan. And I've lived in different cities, and so for short periods of time, when I lived in Minneapolis, the Minnesota Twins, you had to root for them because you lived there.
Right, right.
And originally coming from Detroit, deep in my heart, it was always the Detroit Tigers. Um, but as I was writing this, I was thinking, you know, it's about wanting the energy to win, and that's basically what he's talking about. Get there, get there, and start there. Um, and even if you don't win, did you give it all you needed to make that attempt?
Right,
And
right.
as I shared with you before we came online, last week, I just was reading people on Facebook and Instagram just questioning why certain things were happening. Um, you know, we have three vaccines and one we can't use, and we don't know why we can't use it. Or everybody couldn't wait for their vaccines and they've taken one and now they're not taking the second.
Right.
Or everything is open in Texas, but not everything is open in another state. And just the myriad of questions and thoughts. And you're right, get get to where you want to go. But if you go there lackadaisically, you're probably not going to have any energy to get to that finish line.
Yeah, it's tough. The world is full of distractions. The internet and Twitter and Netflix. There's a lot of things out there that are just looming, waiting to take you off tasks, and to, like you said, to do important things. Just to kind of get your life together, to move on, to stay on course. Maybe you are looking for a new job. Just a lot of things. For me, I find that if I don't sprint to the starting line, then I tend to lose focus. But if I keep that idea in mind, then it helps me hone in on what I'm doing, and stay on tasks and do what I need to do. It's a great concept. I'd never heard it before, but yeah, sometimes once you get going, you're okay. It's just starting. It's just that initial change, that initial break, uh, to get yourself on the track to begin with is the most important thing that you can do. You know,
Yeah.
so
And speaking of this past year, so many of us in the beginning, we were given that permission to become couch potatoes. Okay. You stay in your house, don't go anywhere. And um, for many, I saw that they were itching to keep going. And so they created new things. Okay. They created online concerts. They took up painting again. They started reading, all these different things. But what I'm finding now, a year later, is that those who didn't do those right in the beginning, they're still sitting on their couches
Right.
and on their chairs, and they're going, when is the world going to come back? And it's like, but the world didn't go anywhere. If you
Right.
if you had stayed there, and sprinted to the beginning and would have made whatever changes you needed to, guess what? You'd be further ahead. But now you're still walking to uh to start the game. So
Right. And you can tell, and you can tell that that the opportunity was there, and some people took it and some people didn't, because like I said, it's easy to fall into these habits,
sure.
these and get lost in the distractions. I was called back to work. I was laid off last year, called back to work, as were a lot of my colleagues. And you can tell the people that basically did nothing and just kind of waited for the world to get right again, and the people that actually continued their lives and tried to stay on, doing what they needed to do. The people that got kind of stuck in that stay at home rut, it was really hard for them to get back to work and just put in 8 hours and do the minimum of what they needed to do. They were, physically they were kind of, a lot of them were out of shape, I mean, that happens, but it was more mental, I mean, they could not wait for the time clock to be, for 8 hours to go by. They were just, I have to do this, I have to do that. I mean, you got to be kidding me. They just, it was a completely different mindset for them, for the last year.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
That's why
like
I
out here, the schools opened really late. I mean, they just are barely opening up again for kids. And one of the problems was during that hiatus, they were just kind of waiting for somebody to tell them, okay, now you can open up again. Well, when they finally did that, they hadn't done all the precautions. They hadn't put up the screens. They hadn't sanitized everything. They hadn't done all that. I mean, if they had been doing that all along, just getting ready for just, when it does happen, I mean, it would have happened a lot sooner. So
absolutely. Well, for those of you listening, um, brush yourself off and start sprinting, um, because it is your life. It affects you more than it affects the rest of us. So, love that theory. And I also want to bring up that when you go to New Cleveland Radio and you look up um, theories, Steve Valdez, you're going to find out that they're in a very strange order, because it does not number one, then two, then three. Um, they come as you send them to me, and you number them. I don't. Um, so I just want people to know that number 22 is sort of in the middle of the pack here right now. Uh, so don't miss out on it.
yeah, I don't know why I did that. I mean, right now I'm up to about 43, 44 theories, and when I wrote them, I numbered them in order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sure.
But when I sent them, I kind of felt like sending this one, and I felt like sending that one, and I would just randomly send them.
Right.
Uh, so if you follow the numerical order, it's kind of a timeline of when I wrote them, but it was more what was going on at the time,
Sure.
what was in the news, what I was thinking, what I was feeling, which one I wanted to get out at any particular time. And I don't know, I think it's kind of fun to, if I toss out a new one that I wrote a month ago, and then the next time I post something that I wrote, 8 months ago. Um, I don't know. For me, it kind of reminds me too of what I was thinking back then and where was my head, a year ago. And I don't know. I just thought it was kind of different, kind of fun.
Absolutely. So what's the next theory we're going to talk about today?
The next one hits a little closer to home. Also, inspirational, introspective. This one is called "You Can't Go Forward If You're Looking Backwards."
Okay. And what's the number on that one?
I'm sorry, 13. Theory number 13.
All right.
Lucky 13.
Okay.
You can't go forward if you're looking backward. So I have this friend, see, Nice guy, married, couple of kids, even a few grandkids. On the surface, and to most people he comes in contact with, he's an affable sort. But just under the surface, there exists a smoldering, bitter, self-loathing human being, mad at the world, distrustful of people in general, and constantly berating himself for choices and decisions he's made over the years that have landed him in the financial rut that he currently resides. The problem is, all that anger is never dealt with and is adversely affecting his family and those around him. Naturally, I've tried to console my friend. I've reminded him of all the good things that have happened in his life. It's funny though, most people who look back on their lives do it out of regret. Like my friend, they only focus on the things that they would do differently if given the chance, the negative stuff. It only seems reasonable that if you're going to rehash the past, you would remember the good as well as the bad. But the people that spend a good portion of their time looking backward don't have any desire to look at any of the positive achievements they've garnered. One day I was talking to a different friend about my angry friend, and she said that it's true. He has made some poor choices. But if he spends all his time and energy whining about the dumbass things he's done, then not only is he actively contributing to his own misery, he's doing nothing to help himself out of his current situation. What does he want? She said. Maybe he enjoys feeling sorry for himself. Maybe it gives him an excuse to act like an ass. It's time for him to move forward and attempt to change his present situation and his future. Move forward, not backward. If you're looking backward, you can't go forward. It's physics. So I went home and I looked in the mirror and I said, my friend, yes, you've made a lot of mistakes in the past, but you also did a handful of things right. If you're angry at the way your life turned out, then do something to change it. It's not too late. Put your time and effort into doing whatever it takes to make things better now. You've beat yourself up enough. Move on to the next fight.
And that is a description, I would say, of all of us. And if you're listening to this, please don't argue with me because we do this. Uh, and you know, I did this more in the past than I do now. Um, it was always, oh, woe is me. Okay. Um, I didn't get a good mark on that spelling test. Um, I'm never going to be a good speller. And it'd be like, now I look at it and go, whoa, if you didn't do good on that test, what could you do differently? But back then, that's not how I saw it. And so I would constantly remind myself, well, if I failed that test, then I'm probably going to fail the next one. And we're our worst enemy. I mean, as you said, you went home, you looked in the mirror, and it was like whether that theory was really totally about you or it reminded you of some things inside of you. Okay. It gave you that energy to say, okay, what have I done good that I can build upon that? And that's something that we're not taught in this society.
That's true. It's true. When your current situation isn't what you want it to be, it's easy to fall into the habit of fantasizing about your past and going back to, well, if I only would have done this instead of that, if I could have done this, I should have done that, and you get that in your head, and it just runs over and over and over. Um, it's kind of like that movie Back to the Future. The kid's life isn't that good. He goes back in time, tweaks a few things, comes back to the present. Everything's great. Life is good. You know, but it's a trap. It's a trap when you start. Your head is constantly in the past, constantly, thinking about this. What I could have done if I just would have done this. If I just would have done that. And it's certainly easier to say, well, just stop doing that and start doing this. It's easy, but I think it helps just knowing that there's a way out, knowing that there is something you can do. There is a way to stop it. There is a way to get out of that trap, out of that quicksand that just keeps you stuck in that mindset that just, you're constantly berating yourself and you're just, why couldn't I have just done this? Why couldn't I have just done that? But again, I think it helps just even knowing that there. Oh, look at this, my cat.
Oh. I was wondering
Uh,
what that was.
yeah, I'm surprised she's not sitting on my head right now. But it's nice to know that you don't have to be there, that you can get yourself out. There are ways to get yourself out of it, even though it's not easy. Um, there are things you can do. So um, staying stuck in the past is really a tough nut to crack. Because you can imagine any life for yourself. You can in your head you can think of, well, man, I could be this, I could be that, and initially it seems kind of pleasant. You're like, wow, that would be really nice, this and this, but it's really doing a lot of harm in the process. Once you stop and come back to your real life, which you have to undoubtedly, then you're even more miserable. It's a trap, you know, and it definitely will do you some good to keep from that backwards thinking.
Well, one of the things that I make sure we talk about on every podcast that we do here at New Cleveland Radio is let's learn from our mistakes, but find that strength that you have. I don't care what it is. Okay. That strength might be that you're good at washing dishes, you're good at painting, um, that you're good in connecting friends with friends, whatever it is. There's something that we're all good at. And work on that and let that build your other strengths. Um, and I learned this very late in life from a therapist that I was going to. And again, I was standing there and it was like, oh, it's because, my mother did this to me, or my father didn't do this to me, or, my mother liked one of my brothers better than me, whatever. And I sat in there for almost a year just giving excuses why I was feeling the way I was. And she looked at me and she said, what is one of the things that you really like about yourself? And at that point, I couldn't think of anything.
Mm,
She said, you can't come back until you have one good thing.
wow, wow,
And I said, well, no, wait a second. I need these sessions. And she said, yeah, you do. You have to go home. And it took me about 3 months
wow,
because I was fighting it. Like, what is good about me? I'd look in the
right.
mirror and I'd say, I have a droopy eye. Oh, my hair is too short. My hair is too long. There was always a complaint. And then I don't know what triggered it, but one day I woke up and I said, I like people and I like to help people. And I can't help them. I don't have the money to help them. Um, I don't have other resources, but I can find other ways of helping people. And I made my appointment, which was still like 2 months out. So here I went 5 months without therapy. And I walked in there and she said, okay, what is it that's good about yourself? And I said, I'm a people pleaser. And she said, are you a Karen pleaser?
Mm,
And that changed everything for me. She finally hit it
wow,
on the head that you can please people, but only if it pleases you.
right,
And
wow. That's
and
great.
and everything came out of it. And that's why when I look at a lot of the theories that we're posting on the website that you're sending, it's like just take a step back. Okay. And that's one of the reasons I use this picture frame around me. It takes me back to uh, Tube TV. And if you're
Yeah,
listening and you have no idea what that is, go look it up. Um, but we don't have to be stuck in the past. We can
right.
bring the past forward and make it even a better future.
Right, right. It's tough seeing sometimes the little things that you do right, because you minimize them so much. You know that they're there, but it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't mean anything. I should be this, I should be that. These are all the bad things. I don't. Somehow it's easier, keep putting those thoughts in your head. The negative stuff. But there are, I mean, everybody has things that they do well, and things that they can pat themselves on the back for. They choose not to a lot of times, unfortunately, but they're there. They're there, you know. And if you think about them a lot, like you had to do, you were kind of forced to, you know. She said, you know, she threatened you, don't come back until you find one. You find them, and then for the first thought in your head is, well, you know, this is nothing. Everybody does this. Everybody can do this. I mean, this is not unique to me. Uh, you know, this is no big deal, and you try to move on. But if you stop right there, you know, yeah, that is something I do well. You know, it's a big deal. You know, I mean, this is something that I can do. You know, maybe everybody else can too, but I can do it. You know, I'm not, you know, incapable of, of doing anything right or whatever. Yeah, and you know, you start with, like you did, you start with one thing, and then you have enough self-confidence to be able to find more. You have enough. You don't dislike yourself as much, you know, because hey, I got something. There is something that I can do, that I do well, and you know, I'm sure there's a couple of more in there. So yeah, that's great. That's great. It's a great story.
So when you sit down and write these theories, tell our listeners, like, is it something that like sparks you? Maybe you're at work and you see something, or you're driving down the road and, you know, it's like an epiphany.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I go through my life and I do what everybody does. You know, you get up, you go to work. Um, but there's always something. I mean, some of these things I've had in my head for a long time. When I first started, it was easy to come up with, you know, 5, 10, 15 theories because I'd been thinking about them my whole life. I just hadn't put them on paper. All about just random things, you know, over time. And then I was thinking, once I wrote those, I thought, oh man, how am I going to keep this up? You know, I mean, that was my core thoughts, you know, my core theories. And then, but just, yeah, every day, every week, you read something in the paper, you have an experience driving home. Uh, you know, somebody tells you something just randomly, and it sparks something in your head. Um, there's just a lot of things out there that people take for granted, and that if you stop and look at them and evaluate them and say, wait a minute, does this even make sense? Is this I mean, there's a lot of things. I have a lot of theories that where I get my anger up a little bit, and I'm incredulous. I can't believe this was in the paper, or somebody is doing that and getting away with it. And you know, a lot of my, there's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration in a lot of my theories about why would people do things like this. Um, so there's a lot of material to work with, but at the same time, you know, there's inspirational things, and there's you know, beautiful things, and um, you know, beautiful people, and things that happen just kind of randomly. Somebody will say something to me, and I'm like, wow, that was really deep. You know, I'd never heard that before. You know, or something like that the story you just told. You know, it's great. You know, and if you listen, if you think about it and kind of keep your eyes open, then you recognize them. And then what I drive a lot. You know, I have a long drive to work and back, and a lot of times I'll think of something while I'm driving, and I'm like, man, I can't stop and write this down. And so I've got my phone, so I kind of dictate into my phone. You know, um, so I make a lot of notes and I write a lot of stuff down. And there's usually 3 or 4 theories buzzing around in my head at any given time, bits and pieces of things. And then when I finally decide to sit down and focus on one thought and and uh, and expand on it and make it an actual theory to post, then I do. But I mean, I always have a list, or I have, you know, 5 or 6 pages of one paragraph each of something that I'm thinking about, and it's just a matter of, you know, kind of expanding on it. But yeah, there's you know, to me, it's how things affect me. You know, things happen every day, you know, and you can either acknowledge them or not, or think about them or not, you know. But if it affects me in a certain way, if I have show some kind of, or feel some kind of emotion about it, then that's what I write about. You know, it either pissed me off, or it made me happy, or it just blew me away. um, you know, a lot of things happen, they just kind of come and go, they just bounce off you. But certain things just kind of, you know, make you stop and go, man, this is pretty cool, you know. And this is what I think of it, and this is what I want to, kind of express and show people and talk to people about. And,
Well, one of the major things that I found when um you first started sharing your theories with me and I started putting them on the website is that so many of us fear to tell people what we're thinking, what our idea is, because somebody's going to say, "Oh, that's stupid," or they're going to become even more argumentative with you. And the reality of it is we all have to learn how to communicate better. It's okay for me to say that I hate snow. I don't. I like the first snowfall. It's pretty. I don't want to see it ever again. But I live in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, I'm going to see snow.
right.
And last week when we had a snowfall, and it's going to be close to 80 today, so very strange.
Wow.
But last week when we had that snowfall, and it was happening across the United States, and people changed because they had gotten used to the sun and it getting warmer, and now all of a sudden, here comes another winter blast. And the things that we can do about that in climate change, we all have to do. But if you're not going to do that, sitting here and saying, "Oh, woe is me. It's snowing outside. I can't do my job. Oh, I'm depressed." Um, yeah, did it depress me? It did, but I kept going at it. Okay. Um, I kept breaking through. Not everybody has that ability or has that ability to do it as easily. But when you open your eyes and you listen and you take it all in, um, there is a way for us to get through our anger. And I'm sure writing some of these down for you has helped you because you probably go back and read it and go, yeah, why did I let that upset me so much?
Right, right. And you just did it. There something happened, an experience, and it happens all the time. But all of a sudden, you have an idea about it, a theory about it. I mean, that's your theory on it. That's your take on it, and it makes perfect sense. And just saying that, could help a lot of people. And you put it across, you put it out there, and people are going to say, I feel the exact same way. I mean, I hate snow. I'm going to admit it. I'm a snow hater. That's it. And they say, yeah, that's what you just described what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And it is, it all those things were in my head, been in my head for a long time. A lot of them have. And yeah, I never wrote them down. I never really even talked to anybody about them. um, but in some ways for me it's cathartic to just get them out, put them on paper. If somebody doesn't agree with me, they don't agree with me. Somebody doesn't like it, they don't like it. But getting them out and then looking at the finished product, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what's going on in my head. And here it is. You send it out to the ether. And so we started with the blog, and it was just, I just wrote everything down and sent them to you. You posted them, and there they were. And now we've gone to the next level, and we're kind of chatting about them and kind of where they came from, and um, expanding on them a little bit. And but it feels good for me to get some of these things out and to kind of explain more about what I'm thinking. And it isn't just, I don't think, I try to believe that it's not just me. It's not just, well, this is my ego, and this is, I'm trying to do something for myself. I think a lot of people feel these ways and have these things in their heads, and maybe uh, there's no way for them to like verbalize them or figure out exactly what it is. But that's what you do. You just like what you just did. You have an idea, you expand on it a little bit. This is my point, this is my take, this is how I feel. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. And there it is. Theory number 46, I hate snow. There it is. So or for you, theory number 1, that could be that
That
this
could
could
be.
be your new thing. You never know. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, you saying them out loud, you're like, yeah, I do. That is something, and you write it down, you record yourself. All of a sudden, these are all the things I'm thinking about, and maybe they could help somebody else. Maybe everybody's thinking about these things, and um, that when I first started, that's kind of what was my goal, just to have it be thought provoking, just to have it be interesting. It wasn't just, you know, you know, this is what I write, so believe what I'm saying. I want you to, this is this is the truth, not my truth, the truth. Believe me, it was just, this is how I feel. And, if you feel that way, great. If you don't, great. If you have a debate, if you have a question, even better, that it's thought provoking, that it makes you think about it. So
Absolutely. Well, we'll do this again next month.
yes, we will.
For all of our listeners out there, if you have an idea for a theory, um, if you want to put it together and send it to us, we certainly would love to share it. Um, and maybe eventually, when we can figure out um, a good timing that we're recording this, maybe we can invite some of those individuals to actually participate. Um, because I know even here on the East Coast, there's going to be people who are going to say 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh no, I can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
However, I was up at 5 a.m. my time. So
There you go.
I know
There you go.
what it's like. Have
If
a
we can get up at 5, they can get up at 5.
That's
Damn it.
right. You got it. Well, have a great day. Thanks for your theories, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. We'll see you, Karen.
Bye bye.
Bye.